Hey, what's going on, y'all? It's me coming back at you again with another vid. Alright, first things first, before I start this video, I have to say congratulations once again to Andre Ward and Sergey Kovalev for giving us a fight that all of us hardcores and even some casual fans were asking for such a long period of time. It was definitely something that boxing needs. Now, other than that, it did spark some aftermath on the results and the decision that, in case some of you don't know, that Andre Ward got the unanimous decision and went over Sergey Kovalev to become the unified light heavyweight champion of the world. Now, as I was talking to some people, about this, debating back and forth, I've concluded that I've concluded, but many conclude that this fight, or agreed, I should say, many concluded or agreed that this fight was a close decision. Now, my problem with this is that many people or other people who are opponents of Andre Ward suggesting that Sergey Kovalev got robbed, and yet they agreed this is also a close fight. So my question is, how can you say that this was a close fight and then Sergey Kovalev got robbed? Because I never heard of anyone suggest that. Now, if the scores were a lot wider, like 117, 111, or 116, 111, or 118, 110 for Andre Ward, yeah, I can see your argument of that being a robbery, because there's no way in hell that this fight was a wide margin of fight. Now, let's not get it twisted, okay? Let me reiterate some of my points here, or actually a point that I made in the past leading up to this fight. I picked Sergey Kovalev to win this fight against Andre Ward. And the reason why I picked Sergey Kovalev to win is because even though Andre Ward looked pretty impressive against Sullivan Barrera, I still wasn't quite sure, because we all know that Ward's had such a long layoff. He was battling injuries. He was battling litigation issues with his then promoter Dan Goossen. So he was losing, a quite significant time. excuse me. Quite significant time in his prime, given those circumstances. So I wasn't quite sure of how Andre would react against a guy like Sergey Kovalev, a monster, a guy who was knocking people out, who who was brutalizing opponents with his power and his stiff jab, and so forth. Who was just on top of his game, who was rated number 3 pound fighter in the world, and he should be, and I wasn't too sure how Andre would react to a guy like that, because he had never faced a guy like Sergey Kovalev in his career at that caliber. And in all fairness, Sergey Kovalev have never faced a fighter that caliber of Andre Ward. Okay? As I've watched the fight, I watched it again, and I have to conclude that my decision stayed the same. I felt that Andre Ward clawed back. He did enough that he had to do. He nicked rounds like he always does, and a low volume punching output to gain the win. Okay, now a lot of people who are arguing this, arguing here, or trying to make this a conspiracy case for Sergey Kovalev or why he didn't get the decision. Now, let me remind you guys, these are the same people who are discrediting Andre Ward leading up to the fight. Okay, this all stems back from the Gennady Golovkin situation. Okay, many of these people who criticized Ward for answering that challenge to Golovkin were calling him a coward. They were telling him, do not focus on Gennady Golovkin. You need to move up in weight. You need to fight Sergey Kovalev. Stop being a coward. That's what they were saying, paraphrasing. And then Andre Ward decides to do that. He decides to take a multi-fight deal with HBO, which is a 3-fight deal, by the way. And this was the last fight in his contract, with lucrative amount of money. And he agreed to fight Sergey Kovalev. Okay? So he does that. And then when the fight finally gets made official, they still find a way to discredit Ward. They refuse to give him credit for stepping up and challenge to take on the most dangerous fighter in the world. Okay, and by the way, this is the same fighter, Sergey Kovalev, who killed a fighter in the ring 5 years ago. This is who Andre Ward had to go up against. Yes, it was a 50-50 fight, but there were some odd makers who were suggesting that Ward would be the slight favorite to win, and then again, there was odd makers who were suggesting that Kovalev would be the slight favorite to win. So this would justify this as a 50-50 fight, but then again, I was not too convinced, because I was just a little worried about Ward's performances, Ward's how he would react to Sergey Kovalev given his last 2 performances. Okay, now the argument I'm hearing is that Andre Ward lost the fight because his face was bruised up and Sergey Kovalev bruised up his face pretty good. That was a telling point. Well, that's kind of a hard argument to make because when Lennox Lewis fought Vitaly Klitschko's face was marked up. Well, not just marked up. That's actually an understatement. His face was brutalized by Lennox Lewis. Now, despite that, Lennox Lewis was losing that fight leading up to that technical stoppage, okay? And many people agree with that because Lennox allowed Vitaly to get his hands off, to go at him, beat him to the punch, whatnot, and he was losing the first 2 rounds of the fight, okay? So give it to that. Yes, Lennox clawed back a little bit, but he was still behind in the cards before the technical stoppage. But again, many people didn't disagree with that. Many people didn't disagree with the fights, the scorecard before the stoppage. So just because of the guy's face is being marked up a little bit does not mean it's a telling point to decide that he lost the fight. So that's a bit of a ridiculous argument, to be honest with you. A second one, I would say that it's almost saying that Danny Garcia didn't deserve to win against Lamont Peterson. Yes, that fight ended in controversy as well. But to be honest with you guys, those who suggest that Peterson won that fight, I have to disagree because Lamont gave away the early rounds at Danny Garcia. He let Garcia get off first. He let Garcia do what he, pretty much get his punches off before he did. And then that's when he started to put on the gas pedal. I think Lamont realized that he was losing the fight at that time, and he started to step it up. So I guess, from there, that was a little too late right there. He couldn't knock out Garcia, even though he marked him up, but he rallied too late to convince the judges. So that's just because a man's face is marked up doesn't mean it's a telling point to decide that he won the fight. Another suggestion that I wanted to make is this: the Harold Letterman card. I have to really address this, and I have nothing but respect for Harold Letterman, but I believe the Andre Ward detractors, though, who are finding a way to discredit him no matter how the outcome of this fight was going to turn out, I think they were very persuaded by the HBO commentary because many of you guys have to admit that commentary was atrocious. Atrocious. Okay? Let me give you an example. Max Kellerman, if anybody did not notice, Max Kellerman was in debate. He was disputing that card pretty much throughout the rounds 4 to 12, okay? Because he couldn't understand how Harold Letterman was scoring rounds for Sergey Kovalev, even though with a good conscience and a good rationale that it was Andre Ward who was able to nitpick most of these rounds to call back and do enough to steal him by getting off his, let go of some of his, bit of combinations at the end of the round, okay? Especially particularly that 9th round where Andre Ward clearly won that round against Sergey Kovalev. Clearly. And yet Harold Letterman scored it for Ward. Because the reason why I can say that people are saying that they were persuaded by that HBO Letterman card, because there's some guys who have asked for, what rounds did you give Kovalev? Most of them said that they gave Kovalev the 9th round. Wow. Okay. So that's another indicator right there. So again, I have to say that this right here is it just goes to show that no matter what the outcome was, they were not going to give Andre Ward any credit whatsoever. There's some guys are saying that Sergey Kovalev took a dive, which they kind of openly admit that he didn't do enough to win the fight, but then they're going to say that Andre Ward was given a decision. Okay. And there were some guys that are saying that Andre Ward got dominated by Sergey Kovalev. I mean, first of all, if you're saying that, then pretty much they have made up their mind that Sergey Kovalev scored a knockdown, plus pretty much had the first 3 rounds in the bag. That was enough to win the fight. They have to understand that every round is scored by a round per round basis. Okay, you can't just not give the fighter a decision based off a knockdown, and he dominated the first 3 rounds. No, you have a long way to go. This is the reason why this is a 12-round fight. So you have to close the show if you got your opponent in a situation like that when he's in trouble, and that's what Sergey Kovalev failed to do. He didn't capitalize on it, and he let Ward off the hook. He let him get back into the fight and steal the rounds. And speaking of Kovalev, now he's coming out complaining about the American officiating. There's 3 American judges. That's the reason why he got the decision. Well, let me say something about that. I do agree that was a little bit unusual that you have 3 American judges to score the fight, okay? Or 3 judges of the same nationality. I could get that to a degree. But Sergey Kovalev cannot complain when he got the decision over Bernard Hopkins in Bernard Hopkins' backyard to take 2 titles away from him. And yet there were American judges who were on that panel to score the fight. So why is it now that you're complaining about American judges, even just because the fight didn't go in your favor? Sergey Kovalev have nothing but himself to blame for that performance. Okay, he was a guy that let Andre Ward off the hook. He was a guy who allowed Andre Ward to get away get off body shots to the inside. He just couldn't do enough, and he was a guy who didn't negate Andre Ward left jab coming in, because Ward just did. I mean, not Ward. Kovalev just didn't have no answer for either one of those things. So yes, he's talking about an immediate rematch, and I definitely want to see the rematch because this was a good fight. It was not an explosive fight, but it was definitely a great, entertaining fight. But the fans definitely deserve to see a rematch. Andre Ward said he'll give him a rematch, and of course, we would expect Sergey Kovalev to evoke it anytime soon. So what I suggest Sergey Kovalev to do is make some adjustments. Okay, not sit here and complain about that he was robbed, which I just find a bit laughable. In fact, that he just couldn't acknowledge that he made mistakes, because when reporters asked him that, do you realize that you made some mistakes, particularly allowed him to get away with inside fighting like that, Kovalev just tried to negate the answer when he was asked some of those questions by some of the the press. So yeah, I just thought I'd address some of the things that's been going on, the aftermath of the fight. I have to conclude that no matter what Andre Ward had done, he wasn't going to get credit from his detractors. They pretty much made up their mind. They're going to discredit him no matter what. Even if he won the fight decisively, which, he didn't, even if he did somehow, they'll still find a way to discredit him. They're going to say that Kovalev was a nobody. He didn't fight nobody that was what you call it? Excuse me. Kovalev didn't fight anybody that was, on a on an elite level. They're going to just come up with all kinds of excuses to discredit him. So I just wish that they could just put their bias aside and just acknowledge what the man did. Acknowledge that he came in there, he fought like a champion, he rallied back in a very, very, obscure situation where many people felt like myself that he was going to get knocked out after that knockdown, because he was hurt pretty badly. Okay, but as I said in my prior video, I just felt that he wasn't quite as hurt as he was when he got knocked down by Darnell Boone. So, yeah, there it is right there. And, if you have a different point of view of, of the whole fight again, if this is to some of you who've actually watched the fight again, if you have a different point of view, or if you feel that your result stays the same, just please let me know in the comment section. And just be respectful about it, y'all. We could agree and disagree on points, but I would like for you guys to do is just again, I have to reiterate my point, put your bias aside and give Andre Ward credit for doing what he did. And retract what you said about him and by calling him a coward for not stepping up, and he actually did that. That's all I have to say. I'm out.